Hi, I'm JB from Huffy, and today I'm going to be helping you build your Tekton 27.5-inch mountain bike from Huffy. To start, I'm going to move this tire out of the way and make sure that I have everything out of the box on the table. If you're at home putting this together on your table, you might want to leave the plastic piece in the fork just to kind of protect your table or work surface that you're on. You can also use cardboard or a couple towels piled up on top of each other, and that should work well for you. It's a tall bike, so if you're working on it on a table and you get through most of it and then you got to put it on the floor so that you can reach other things, completely understandable. We're going to try to do it this way just so you can see how everything goes together. So we're going to start at the back of the bike. We're actually going to put the derailleur guard on first, which is this piece that came in the box earlier, and it goes right here. So go ahead and remove the two silver Phillips head screws. And we'll put those in. Now, this is a tall bike frame, so in the event that you're putting this together and it's a little wobbly, you might want to ask someone to help you if you have someone handy, just to keep the bike standing up straight. The Allen wrenches that come in the toolkit also have a Phillips head screwdriver on the other ends of them, so you should be able to use those to tighten these down. And you just want to get those good and snug. They don't have to be too tight. You don't need to go to the point where you're stripping them out. Next, we're going to add the pedals. Pedals are marked left and right. It's typically a blue or a green sticker on the left pedal and an orange or red sticker on the right pedal. The crank arms are labeled left and right as well. And in case they aren't, the right side of the bike is always the rider's right, which includes the side that has all of the drivetrain, chain, and chain wheels on it. The right pedal goes on as you would normally install any hardware, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. The left pedal goes on backwards, so it is lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So let's go ahead and put those in. You'll notice that the stickers on the pedals kind of show you the orientation in which you should spin it. So we're going to go ahead and get this started by hand. And you want to go and you want to tighten everything by hand so that you're not accidentally stripping anything out and you don't damage anything in the process. And tighten this until you can't tighten it anymore. Now that that's tightened, hold on to the bike and tighten the pedal with the supplied wrench or 15mm wrench if you have your own. Make sure that's good and tight. Now we're going to do the same thing on the left. Once again, just getting everything started by hand and then hand tight. And use your wrench to finish tightening. All right, and that's the pedals. You can give them a little wiggle to make sure they're there, and you should be good to go. Next thing we're going to do is put the seat and seat post together. The little end of the seat post goes into the saddle or seat, and you want to make sure that it goes all the way down and hits the stop at the very bottom. Depending on how you're holding it, it might be the top. And then this also uses a 15mm, and you want to make sure that you kind of equal out the sides where the bolts come out. So this one has a little bit pulling out on this side, so we're going to tighten this side to try to match that over there. If you need to adjust your saddle later, all you have to do is loosen these, and that'll help you adjust your saddle tilting it forwards or backwards. So now you're going to take the seat post and put it in the seat tube. If we do this, we're going to loosen the quick release and slide the saddle into the post. Now you may need to tighten this quick release a little bit. There is a thumb screw on the back. You can tighten it by hand. And then squeeze the quick release so that it locks the seat in place. This should be a little difficult to do and have a little tension on it so that the seat isn't moving left to right or up and down. You can adjust any of these once you figure out the rider's position on the bike. A good place to start is typically having the seat parallel or level with the ground when the bike has both wheels on and is all together. Now we're going to go and move to the front of the bike. This bike uses a threadless headset. So you're going to use the middle size Allen wrench that was provided to you, and you're going to go ahead and remove this piece of hardware here. You're then going to remove the cardboard spacer and take out the head cap from the cardboard spacer. At this point, you will untangle your wires and housings. And line up your handlebars onto the fork. Try to straighten everything out, making sure that none of the cables, wires, housings are tangled or misaligned. You want to make sure that they come off of the bike and go forward, that they're not over the handlebars or woven in between any of the parts of the frame. You'll then want to take your top cap, put it back in place, and then take the hardware and apply it back to the bike. We'll snug this up for right now. So that you can move the fork and the handlebars together. At this point, you're going to remove the front brake quick release. So pull one arm towards the other and pull the housing free and leave them lay open. You're also going to remove this plastic piece if you still have it installed on your fork so that you can put the front tire in place. The front wheel has 15mm nuts on the axle. It also has dropout washers that have little hooks on them. You want to have the nuts and washers out as far as you can get them. You don't have to take them all the way off in order to do this. You can if you feel comfortable doing that. And I'm going to go ahead and take this plastic piece out. And before I do that, I will look at the orientation of the tread on the tire. You want the orientation of the tread to match what is on the back of the bike right now. So it looks like I need to flip this one around. And now I can install it. The tire uses 15mm nuts on the axles. And so you want to have the nuts and the dropout washers on the outside of the fork. And then go ahead and put the hook of the dropout washer into the hole on the fork and tighten these down by hand. Once again, these are 15mm bolts. Give everything a little bit of a wiggle to make sure it's all settled and in the dropout all the way. It looks like it's centered up. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the kickstand down. That way I can work on this a little easier. Now if the bike is on the kickstand, it might lean over a little bit. The tire might lose its center from the center of the fork. So just make sure that you're constantly checking that as you go. And then tighten each side little by little. Until it is tight. So it looks like we've tightened that. All right, so once we have the front wheel put onto the bike and tightened into place, we're going to go ahead and reattach the brake mechanism. Now it looks here like the brake mechanism needs a little bit of extra space in order to work, which is fine. We will use the supplied Allen wrenches. So this one's a little bit too big. So this will be the middle-sized Allen wrench. Just loosen up the cable lock here just a little bit by hand. Give yourself a little bit more space and tighten it back into place. A little bit of cable goes a long way when it comes to the brakes. So we'll go ahead and try to reconnect it now. And yeah, we have plenty of space there. Just as a note, when you're retightening, you don't want to over tighten. This is kind of squishing the cable into place, and you don't want to damage the cable behind it or cut it on accident by tightening it too much. So snug will do. So we'll squeeze the brake here a couple times. So it doesn't look like we have even braking. So we want to adjust that by using the adjustment screws that are on each side. The left and the right side of the brake has a adjustment screw there. You can use a Phillips screw to adjust those. So this side wasn't moving nearly as much as the other side, so we want to go ahead and add tension by screwing in the adjustment screw on this side. We'll start with 2 turns and check. And we'll do a couple more turns. So we'll take off a little tension on this side over here. And check again. All right, so it looks like that helped our movement problem out a little bit. And now we're going to adjust the brake pads. So using the Allen wrench provided, this is the middle size that was in the kit. We're going to loosen the brake pad. You don't have to take all the hardware off. Just kind of line it up where it needs to be and snug it up. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Looks like this one's actually good to go, so I'm just going to check and make sure that's tight. Get this one where I want it. Tighten it into place. Doesn't have to be super, super tight. If you do try to crank down on it, you'll end up just turning the brake pad. So now we're going to go ahead and work on tightening up the front fork of the bike using the middle Allen provided. Go ahead and get that head cap tightened down. Good and snug. And you probably will have a little bit of movement left and right until you tighten the stem completely. So we're going to go ahead and line the handlebars and the front tire up so that they're pointed in the same direction. And now you were given a smaller of the 3 Allen wrenches, and you're going to use that one to go ahead and tighten the stem up. There are 2 pieces of hardware, and they face opposite of each other. You want to tighten them up little by little so that you create an equal gap at the top and bottom of the stem. This is where the gap is, so you want to make sure that this is equal down here as well as up there. You want to tighten these two pieces of hardware equally, a little by little as they get tighter, so that they're tightening at the same time. All right, if you need to adjust the position of the handlebars, you can do that by adjusting the top of the stem bolts where the handlebar attaches. There's 4 of these bolts. And I'll move the housings out of the way so you can see them a little bit better. This also uses the smallest Allen wrench provided. And this is also one of those areas where you need to make sure that the gap on the top and the bottom are the same between the two. So our gap on the top is a little bit small, and our gap at the bottom is a little bit big. I can, for example, fit the wrench in the gap at the bottom, but I can't fit it in at the top. So I'll go ahead and loosen up the hardware. And this is a good time to adjust the handlebars if they're not quite centered, or if you need to adjust the angle of the brake levers and shifters. So I'm going to go ahead and angle the brake levers a little bit down, typically about 30 degrees. Forward and down is where you want to be at. You want to make sure that the handlebars are centered, so feel for center. And it looks like we're pretty good there. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten the hardware in an effort to make sure that the gap is the same on the top and the bottom. And I'm crisscrossing how I tighten these to try to balance the gap as much as possible. I'll just kind of check here. Yeah, and so I can't fit the wrench in the gap at the bottom anymore like I could before I started. So we're getting a little bit better. Making sure the gap is equal, make sure that you get the same tension on the top and the bottom. That creates good grip, keeps the handlebars from moving. Notice I'm still using the crisscross pattern, just tightening these down, making sure that they're good and snug. Once you're done there, you can move your reflector into place. You want to make sure that it's forward facing and level so that it picks up light from things like headlights or street lamps so that people can see you at night. There's a Phillips head screw that you can use to tighten that piece all the way down. All right, so we're at the back of the bike. We're going to check and make sure that the rear brakes don't need any adjustment. If they do, we'll cover that. So it looks like our rear brakes are pretty good. We have equal movement on the left and right hand side of the bike. These brakes adjust just like the front brakes do. So if you do have one side of the brake not moving as much as the other, you can use the Phillips head screwdriver and adjust on whichever side is not moving to create a little bit of movement there. They also have the pads on the same way, so you can use that middle Allen wrench that's provided to you to loosen the pads up, adjust them as necessary, and then tighten them back into place. And ours are good there, so we should be all set. While we're back here, we're going to go ahead and inspect the derailleur and the derailleur pieces to make sure that everything's lined up. So if you're back here and you're looking at the cassette, you want to make sure that if the bike is in first gear, that the cage hanging down on the derailleur is lined up with that largest chain wheel in the cassette. That looks like ours is there. And so we're going to go ahead and put the kickstand up and rotate this assembly a little bit so we can kind of make sure that everything is tuned correctly. So we have grip shift up there, so we'll change gears as we go. You may want to grab someone else to help you with this portion because it is a little unwieldy with the bicycle on a table, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, so we just pedaled the bike, stayed in gear, nothing moved around, no weird noises. So we're going to go ahead and change gears. And we're going to give it 2 clicks to change 2 gears and try that again. That was good engagement. 2 more clicks. And it changed 2 more gears for us. And last 2 clicks. All right. So it looks like everything shifted really well for us. The cage is still hanging in alignment with the cassette. It should be now at the smallest chain wheel in the cassette, and it still should be lined up. So if you get right behind the bike and look there, that's a good place to check. If it isn't lined up, if you need to make a little bit of adjustment, there is an adjustment knob right here. By turning this, it will move the cage either further in towards the center of the wheel or further out to make those adjustments. So we're going to go back up the gear range. So give it a couple clicks. Pedal forward. Looks like we got good gear change. And give it some more clicks. Still good. No weird noises. And back up to the top. And it looks like it's where it needs to be. After we went through the gear changes, it does look like we can adjust it just a little bit. So I'm going to move this adjuster just a little bit counterclockwise to push the cage in towards the center just a little bit. All right. No weird noises. We're good to go there. So now we're going to check the front derailleur as well. You have 3 different chain rings up here. This is also known as a 3x drivetrain. So we're going to shift to the middle and pedal forward. Give it another click. All right. So it did shift to the middle, okay. And now we'll turn the lever all the way over and go to the big ring. And it does it immediately. So we're good there. Check alignment back here just to make sure we're good. And then we're going to go back to the middle ring. And give it another click. Good there. And go back to the small ring. And it sounds like we're good there too. Now I did hear some clicking, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to that middle ring. All right. So I did have some clicking at my rear derailleur. So I want to make sure that it's lined up still properly. Whenever we're adjusting the front derailleur, we always make sure that the rear derailleur is in the largest cog. And I'm just going to move it just a little bit to line it up a little bit better. And we'll give it another spin. All right, now we're not getting any clicking noises, so that should take care of that there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the kickstand back down. Gonna look over the bike and make sure everything's tight. Make sure the rear reflectors are in place, the brakes are good, the seat's been adjusted and it doesn't move left or right or up and down. Make sure that the front brakes are all right. Make sure that the front wheel is in place, front reflector is good. You'll find in the bag with the owner's manual, there's a little black plug. You can put that black plug right in the head cap to cover up that hardware there, keep it good and clean. Double check everything. This is now a good time where you can add air to the tires. The bike's been on a long journey, lots of travels with whoever delivered it, so you may need to put some air in the tires. I believe the tire inflation is 40 pounds for the Tekton, so make sure that they're right around 40 pounds. You don't want to go over that, otherwise you could possibly blow the tire on there, and then you'd have to get that replaced. Nobody wants to do that. So now that we've looked everything over, you should be able to ride the bike. But in the event that you are missing anything or you need to have some repair parts, you can look in the owner's manual. There is a parts diagram in the manual. There's also detailed instructions on how to put all of this together, just in case you need to look at it in paper and you want to see it a little bit better. If you need to reach our customer service for anything, you can reach us at huffybikes.com/contact or our 1-800 number, 1-800-872-2453. And that wraps it up for us today. The only thing left to do now is to get out and ride your bike. Make sure you always wear a helmet and obey local laws. This is JB from Huffy. Get out there and have some fun.